What is up, everybody? Welcome to DFS by the Numbers. This is my full card breakdown and prediction video for UFC 304. We have Leon Edwards going against Belal Muhammad 2. And yeah, I'm looking forward to this card. I think we have a great pay-per-view on our hands this Saturday in England. It's a stacked 14-fight card, especially this main card. And two title fights, two rematches. Edwards Muhammad, of course, for the welterweight championship. They're running it back from a fight that took place in 2021. Tom Aspinall, Curtis Blades running it back from a fight that took place in 2022. So yeah, looking forward to this main card. We got King Green, Paddy Pimblett on the main card, Christian Leroy Duncan, Gregory Rodriguez is going to be a banger, Arnold Allen, Giga Chikadze, and then the featured prelim as of now is one of my favorite fights, Muhammad Mokaev going against Manel Kape. So lots of really fun fights to talk about. I'm loving this card from a fan perspective, some spots sticking out from a betting perspective as well. And yeah, looking forward to breaking it all down. Before we get into it, if you guys could do me a favor, like the video, subscribe to the channel if you have not already. It is always much appreciated, and be on the lookout for more content throughout the week. We got DraftKings content, Prize Picks content, betting content, and more. It'll all be on the channel, some live streams later in the week as well, as always, so make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on all of that. And since this is a pay-per-view card, going to be bringing back these significant strike contests. The last time we did this for UFC 303, somebody hit it on the dot. We'll see if we can do it again, but comment down how many significant strikes you think that Leon Edwards and Belal Muhammad are going to combine for. $25 to first. If there's a tie, the tiebreaker goes to the person that commented first. And like I did for UFC 303, if you hit it on the dot, I'm going to double the prize to $50. So comment down how many significant strikes you think these two are going to combine for in the main event. And lastly, if you guys want extra content, or if you do want to support me more, check out dfsbythenumbers.com. I'm doing a ton of content behind the scenes. I'm very ahead for this week, so expect some early content on there. Articles, bets, all that good stuff. dfsbythenumbers.com. And with all that out of the way, I say we get into it. Lots to talk about, guys. We're going to kick it off with the first fight of the card, and it is Modestas Bukauskas going against Marcin Prachnio. We have Bukauskas, 30 years old, 6'3", with a 78-inch reach, 15-6 and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Marcin Prachnio, 36 years old, 6'3", with a 74-inch reach, 17-7 and 3-2 in his last 5 fights. We'll take a look at the odds here, and we have Modestas Bukauskas opening up minus 250. He's currently sitting as a minus 170 favorite. Marcin Prachnio opened up plus 210. He's currently sitting as a plus 145 underdog. So these are two guys, to be honest with you, these are two guys I'm constantly looking to fade. I think both guys have very questionable durability. These guys have been finished a combined 10 times. Modestas has been knocked out 4 times. Prachnio has been knocked out 4 times, and Prachnio was kind of like the laughing stock of the UFC for a second. He made his debut against Sam Alvey. It was one of the most hilarious losses I've ever seen, where he got dropped hard by Sam Alvey in the first round. He gets back up and just marches forward with his hands down to his waist and gets knocked out cold by Sam Alvey. Wasn't the best look. He got knocked out by Magomed Ankalaev, which there's no shame in that loss, and then he got knocked out by Mike Rodriguez as well. So yeah, he had 3 knockout losses in a row, all in the first round. But since then, this guy's 4-2 in the UFC with wins over Ike Villanueva, Khalil Roundtree, which still makes no sense to me, but it happened. Beat William Knight, and then beat Devin Clark. His losses come against Philippe Lins and Vitor Petrino in that 4-2 record since getting knocked out 3 times to start his career. So yeah, Prachnio's surprised me. I think he's surprised a lot of people. He's going out there and not getting knocked out, which is great. Modestas Bukauskas has had a tough run in the UFC, though. I mean, he makes his debut against Andreas Michailidis, easy fight, but his losses, Jimmy Crute, a tough opponent. Mikhail Olazechuk, very tough opponent. Vitor Petrino, Khalil Roundtree, these are, no easy guys to go in there against. So Bukauskas has been finished a lot, though. He got knocked out by Roundtree. That nasty kick to the leg. Petrino knocked him out. Nasty shot in the second round. Jimmy Crute just brutalized him in the first round. So yeah, both these guys I think are kind of chinny. Both these guys are not the most exciting fighters, especially Bukauskas, but this is a matchup where, in my opinion, I really think Bukauskas should win this fight. The thing that is kind of holding me back is, Prachnio, he's very high volume. He won't do a ton with that volume. Like, he's not throwing a ton of power. A ton of it is just kicks. But, he is very high volume nonetheless. He can go out there and put up like 100+ significant strikes, where that's not really Modestas' game. But with that said, though, Prachnio's slowing down so bad in some of these fights. Like, he looked awful in the Philippe Lens fight. He was completely death-gassed in the first 6 minutes of that fight. He was death-gassed in the Devin Clark fight, but both Devin Clark and Philippe Lens were not able to take advantage and capitalize and get the late finish, whereas Modestas, he is kind of a late finish decision type guy. Like, he's going to get better and better as the fight goes on. So I see Prachnio definitely having success early, but I think right at that 7.5 minute mark, I think he's going to start to slow down, start to tire, and I think Modestas can start to put it on him. And Modestas needs this fight, man. If he loses to Prachnio, it's going to be a terrible look. Modestas has already been cut once from the UFC, so this is a matchup where I feel like he should go out there and win. Give me Modestas Bukauskas to win this fight by third round knockout. Next fight, we got Shauna Bannon going against Alice Ardeline. We got Shauna, who is 30 years old, 5'5", with a 65-inch reach, 5-1 and 4-1 in her last 5 fights. Alice Ardeline, she's 32 years old, 5'3", with a 61-inch reach, 9-5 and 5-0 in her last 5 fights. So we just recently got odds on this one. It looks like Shauna Bannon is around -205, and Alice Ardeline is currently a +175 underdog. So this was one of the very first fights I wanted to dig into because I had no clue who Alice Ardeline is. Apparently, she's a very popular TikTok star. She has 3 million followers on TikTok, and I don't hate to admit it. I'm a TikTok guy myself. I don't mind TikTok. I think it's solid videos, solid content on there. So I did go in and check out her account. And it's not really my thing, what she's doing on there. It's a bunch of reaction videos. It's kind of weird. Like a video will play, it's like a sexual video, and then she'll make a reaction to it, and she doesn't say anything. She just makes like a weird face. It's kind of weird, to be honest. But people like it, and she's getting like hundreds of thousands of views on each TikTok. So I mean, good for her. And apparently she does have an OnlyFans as well, and looks really popular on OnlyFans. I'm not too familiar with how OnlyFans works, but apparently like she has a lot of subscribers and all that. So yeah, good for her. She's doing very well, very popular on the social media side of things. But outside of that, I did go and watch her fights, and I was impressed. Like, she looks good. She looks dominant. Like, when she gets on top, very good ground and pound. She has power. She looks mean. And then you look at who she's facing, and it's the worst level of competition you will ever see in your life. The worst. These are some of the worst wins I've ever seen. She's coming off of a win against an 0-3 fighter who was 0-3. Now she's 0-5. Her nickname is like Dilla Supaya. Her nickname is Dilly. So she's coming off a win against an 0-5 Dilly and making her debut here. Some of these she beat an 0-1 Jenny Line, who's now like 0-3, 0-4. I mean, some of these wins are just awful. With that said, though, her losses are good. Like, her last loss is Zhang Wei Li. She lost to Diana Belbita, but like anytime she fights somebody with a pulse, like she's losing the fight. So I'm not high on Shauna Bannon at all. At all. But I think she has a pulse, and for that reason, I gotta go Shauna. But holy crap, laying -205 on Shauna Bannon, I can't quite get there. So this is a fight I will be staying away from. I'm interested in it, though. Alice Ardeline, she seems to have a lot of talent outside the cage. We'll see what she can do inside the cage this Saturday. But the pick for me, by default, just because, Shauna Bannon has a pulse, it's gonna be Shauna to get it done, and probably by decision. Next, we have a fight that I'm really looking forward to. It is Sam Patterson going against Kiefer Crosbie. We have Sam Patterson, 28 years old, 6'3", with a 78-inch reach, 15-6 and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Kiefer Crosbie, 34 years old, 5'11", with a 70-inch reach, 10-4 and 2-3 in his last 5 fights. Sam Patterson opened up -300, currently -350. Kiefer Crosbie opened up +250, currently a +285 underdog. And we'll notice this a lot throughout the card. We have a lot of very juiced favorites. We are in England. I feel like a lot of these fights are like setup fights, and this is kind of one of them. There's a couple on this card, so I think we have a lot of big favorites. Some might be too big. Is Sam Patterson too big of a favorite? With that chin and striking defense, maybe, but holy crap, man, I'm not high on Kiefer Crosbie at all. I hate to say it, but I'm just not sure what he's doing here. Like, Kiefer Crosbie, he looked awful in his debut. He got submitted in the first round, which was not a good look at all. He got submitted by a kickboxer in Giuseppe, and Giuseppe has some grappling, I guess, but I mean, just the way Giuseppe took him down and just insta-tapped him. And then you look at his fights outside the UFC, and it's like he's losing and getting finished by, guys outside the UFC too. I think he has a couple minutes of cardio. His hands are good. He has good hands. He has power, and maybe he can land something early, but outside of landing something within the first, 2 minutes of the fight, I think he's getting served here. If this fight hits the mat, the fight will be over like seconds after. Sam Patterson is no joke on the mat. This guy is 6'3", he's gonna be much bigger, has those very long limbs. He's gonna tap out Crosbie if the fight hits the mat. And even at range, like, Patterson has some good tools. He's very long, very rangy, has some power in his own right. So you have to pick Patterson, but it's one of those things like where if you lay minus 350 on Sam Patterson, his chin's up in the air, he's begging to get knocked out. It's gonna be terrifying for the first couple minutes, but I think Crosbie has no cardio, just no like the level difference on the ground is astronomical. I got to go Patterson here, and it's probably round one again for Patterson. He's coming off of a first round submission win against Johan Lioness. I think Johan Lioness would destroy Kiefer Crosbie. So yeah, give me Patterson here, and it's probably a first round early submission, late first round there for Sam Patterson. Moving on. A fight I'm really looking forward to. I think this is one of the sleeper fights on this card. It is Preston Parsons going against Oban Elliot. We got Preston Parsons, 29 years old, 5'11", with a 71-inch reach, 11-4, and 3-2 in his last 5 fights. Oban Elliot, 26 years old, 6 foot, with a 72-inch reach, 10-2, and 5-0 in his last 5 fights. Parsons opened up minus 140, currently minus 145. Oban Elliot opened up plus 120. He's currently plus 125. And, Oban Elliott's a guy that's training at Jack Shore's gym. I think it's Shore Martial Arts. And this is a guy that is still very young. He's 26 years old. But, I'm watching some of his performance and it's like, especially like, a couple years ago, I really worry about like the heart, the durability of Oban Elliott. He's been finishing both of his losses. And even his debut against Val Woodburn, it wasn't the best look in the world. Like Val Woodburn landed some big shots on the feet, hurt Elliot a few times, and then also Val Woodburn was able to take down Elliot a couple times, which I thought was very weird. And Val in that fight, he gassed out in like the first 60 seconds, and Oban Elliott really should have got him out. I mean, I thought like even though he won the fight and he won it, pretty clearly, the fact that he was not able to get Val Woodburn out of there, I thought that was kind of a red flag, because you're not going to get an easier fight. No offense, Val. You're not going to get an easier fight than Val Woodburn, and this is definitely not an easier fight. Preston Parsons, I'm a big fan of the guy. The nickname is Pressure, and the nickname fits. This is a guy that prior to the UFC had not seen over 1.5 rounds. There was kind of a question mark in terms of like, what is this guy's cardio like as the fight goes on? And it's not bad. We saw him against Evan Elder go out there and push a crazy pace. He attempted 5 submissions in that fight, 5 deep submit. Like, a lot of those were very close to getting finished there. And Parsons was able to win a decision against Evan Elder. That's a good win. And then also he went 15 minutes against Officer Trevin Giles in a fight that I personally thought he won. In that fight, he attempted 3 submissions. And then he went to decision against Matthew Simmelsberger. And in that fight, he attempted 2 submissions, got 7 takedowns along the way, a bunch of control time. His cardio looked good in that fight. So yeah, Parsons is just one of those guys that I like. I like the style of Parsons. He's going to push a pace. He's going to wrestle. He's going to break you. And we have seen Oban Elliott, albeit, a couple of years ago at this point. We have seen him get broken before. We saw Elliot get TKO'd in the second round. We saw Elliot get TKO'd in the third round. So I think Parsons can use that pressure and potentially take over more and more as the fight goes on, because I do think Elliott's a solid fighter. I think he can have some success early. I'm just not sure he's going to be able to keep up. So I like Parsons here. I like Parsons to win this fight by 3rd round submission. I think he breaks down Elliot and gets him out of there late in the fight. I mean, the Elliot-Val Woodburn fight, which is a terrible look in my opinion, and then some of these finish losses for Elliot. Again, a while ago, still not the best look with a guy that's going to push the pace like Preston Parsons here. So Parsons, submission round 3. Moving on, we have Mick Parkin going against Lukasz Brzeski, and I apologize, Lukasz Brzeski, that was pre getting caught by USADA. He doesn't look like that anymore, but I couldn't find an updated picture, so well, let's just pretend it's he doesn't look like that. But Mick Parkin versus Lukasz Brzeski in a fight that could either be awful, or it's probably going to be bad. But we got Mick Parkin. He's 28 years old, 6'4", with a 79-inch reach, 9-0, 5-0 in his last 5 fights. Lukasz Brzeski, this guy's 32 years old, 6'4", with a 78-inch reach, 9-4, and 3-1 no contest in his last 5 fights. And no contest came after his Contender Series win, where he did pop for something. All right, so yeah, Mick Parkin is interesting to me. This is a guy that trains with Tom Aspinall. He's done some training with Paul Craig in the past, so great training partners. And outside of the UFC, he looked like an absolute killer. This is a guy that just got his BJJ black belt. He can get takedowns. His ground and pound looked really good. His submission game looked really good. And he even got a first-round submission win on the Contender Series. But since coming into the UFC, I'm not sure what's going on. I mean, he's winning fights, right? He's 3-0 in the UFC. That's all you can ask for. But some of these performances are just a lot closer than they really should be. I mean, he should really be going out there and making it look easy against Kyle Machado. But that fight was very close. Kyle Machado actually outlanded Mick Parkin 76-39 in that fight. But, Mick Parkin got a couple takedowns here or there. Like, you could have very well scored that fight for Kyle Machado. Against Muhammad Usman, like, that fight was very competitive, like, concerningly competitive. So, this is a fight where I think Mick Parkin can make this look very easy if he wants to. And how does he do that? Well, take down Lukasz Brzeski, who sports a 36% takedown defense. Make him work. Lukasz Brzeski, I don't think his cardio is that great. This guy's looking tired 60 seconds into a fight. But my concern with Mick Parkin here is that he's going to go out there and do what he's done in all these fights. Just stay at range for 15 minutes. And if he does that, it could look like the Usman fight, where it's really, really close. But we are in England, which is going to heavily favor Parkin. So even if it is close, I think Parkin wins. It's just one of those fights where, I wish I knew the game plan of Park. If the game plan was to get the fight down to the mat and sub this guy, I would love him in the spot. But he just hasn't shown that ability thus far in the UFC. So we'll see. I'm going to pick Parkin, probably by decision. But if he grapples here, the sub's live. But give me Parkin by decision in this one. Next, we have a short notice replacement. Jake Hadley is stepping in on short notice for Ramon Tavares, which I was really looking forward to that Loughran Tavares fight. But Hadley stepping in here on short notice, saving a fight. We got Loughran, who is 28 years old, 5'6" with a 68-inch reach, 9-1 and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Jake Hadley, 27 years old, 5'7" with a 70-inch reach, 10-3 and 2-3 in his last 5 fights. Loughran opened up -260, currently -205. Hadley opened up +220. He's currently a +175 favorite. And yeah, so Hadley's on a 2-fight skid. So him taking this fight doesn't make a ton of sense outside of, he probably got promised another fight after this one, because I don't like his chances much in this fight at all. For one, I think he's going to be very undersized in terms of not height, but just like, the build. Like, these guys have 2 different builds. Jake Hadley's like a tall, skinny guy, whereas Caolan Loughran's kind of built like a fire hydrant. I think the strength is going to be heavily in favor of Caolan Loughran. Jake Hadley's a guy that I don't think he has great wrestling, offensively or defensively. I think he's going to really struggle to get down Loughran. I actually don't see him taking down Loughran, whereas Jake Hadley has a 35% takedown defense in his own right. Guys are able to take him down easily, and when you see guys take him down, they're kind of holding him down. Jake Hadley doesn't really have an urgency to get back up. He'll kind of look to play off his back and look for subs here. So I just think there's a lot of avenues here for Loughran to win this fight. I think Loughran takedowns here are free if he wants them. He's going to get him. Just has to, stay smart on top, not make any mistakes, because Hadley will be attempting submissions on bottom. So yeah, Loughran can get takedowns here. I think Loughran can win minutes against the cage using that size, that physicality. Again, I think he's going to be the stronger fighter. On the feet, Hadley does have solid volume, but Loughran does really sit down on his punches. I think Loughran hits pretty hard as well. So yeah, I like Loughran here. I'm just not sure how he wins this fight. Probably decision. But I think takedowns and control time probably going to be a big part of this one. But yeah, give me Loughran to win this fight. I'll say he wins it by decision. Next, we have Molly McCann going against Bruna, Brazil. We got Molly McCann, 32 years old, 5'4", with a 62-inch reach, 14-6 and 3-2 in her last 5 fights. Bruna, Brazil, 30 years old, 5'6", with a 65.5-inch reach, 9-4 and 3-2 in her last 5 fights. Molly McCann opened up -215. Money's poured in on her. Minus 350 currently. I was researching this fight last week, and Molly was like minus 250. So Molly apparently a very popular parlay piece. Bruna, Brasil, opened up plus 185. She's currently plus 285. I talked earlier in the show about how I think they do this a lot of times, but I think they are setting up some fighters here on the pay-per-view card. And, Molly McCann is somebody who I absolutely think they're setting up. They've done this before with Molly McCann. They give her a very, very winnable fight in England. It gets the crowd going. It's fun to watch. Like, I enjoy watching Molly McCann. She comes out. She looks all coked up. She's just going and searching for the finish, and she probably gets it here as well against Bruna. Brasil has been knocked out 3 times. So, yeah, Molly has more ways to win here. I think Molly is going to be the more physically stronger fighter. Brasil, she can't be taken down. Brasil's never been subbed, but we saw Molly's been working on her sub game. And then I really worry about the chin, the durability, the heart of Brasil. She doesn't look like she likes getting hit. Molly McCann can potentially knock her out as well. So, yeah, Molly has a lot of avenues. I think she's more active on the feet. I think she can wrestle. I think she can get a KO. I can see her winning by any which method. Whereas Brasil, like her win conditions, like a decision getting a decision against Molly McCann in England is gonna be pretty dang tough, I think. So, it's Molly McCann by however she wants. Officially, I'll say knockout. Next, we have an exciting fight here. We got Nathaniel Wood going against Daniel Pineda. We got Nathaniel Wood, 30 years old, 5'6" with a 69-inch reach, 19-6 and 3-2 in his last 5 fights. Daniel Pineda, he is 38 years old, 5'7" with a 69-inch reach, 28-15 and 2-2 and 1 no contest in his last 5 fights. So we have Nathaniel Wood, I believe is the biggest favorite on the card right now. He opened up minus 275. He's currently minus 410. Daniel Pineda opened up plus 185. He is currently plus 310. And I like both these guys a lot. I mean, Daniel Pineda, for what it's worth, may not be the best fighter in the world, but he has a 100% finish rate. And not only that, he has a 100% finish rate in 43 professional fights. Like, that's not easy to do at all. 28 wins, 28 finishes, the majority coming in the first round. Daniel Pineda is a very exciting fighter, even at 38 years old, and that's kind of the concern here, especially when we're talking about minus 410 on Nathaniel Wood. For one, Nathaniel Wood's a bantamweight who is some reason fighting up at featherweight. I don't get it. He's going to be smaller. Any featherweight Nathaniel Wood fights, he's going to be smaller than. So I don't like that. I thought Wood could have a lot of success at bantamweight. Why did he move up? The weight cut was probably tough, and the bantamweight division, as we know, is extremely stacked. But yeah, I mean, Wood's not a featherweight in my opinion. He can go out there and beat some of these guys, but again, undersized. And then another concern when we're talking about minus 410 with Nathaniel Wood's the durability. He's been finished 4 times. He gets dropped in pretty much every single fight. So yeah, Pineda's going to have some opportunities here early. The problem with Daniel Pineda, especially at 38 years old, I think the cardio is very poor. This is a guy that's been finished 1 million times in his own right. He's been finished 9 times, 6 by sub, 3 by knockout, and it should have been 10, to be honest. I mean, Alex Caceres, I went back and watched that fight. I'm not sure what was up with Alex Caceres, but it looked like he was trying not to finish Daniel Pineda in that 3rd round. Like, he hurt Daniel Pineda. Pineda, was walking away. His hands were on his knees. His hands were on his hip. Like, he was looking for the door, and Caceres was, shadow boxing in front of him for the remainder of the... It was very, very weird. But, yeah, this is a guy in Pineda who's kill or be killed, glass cannon. He has a chance to win in the first 5, 6, 7.5 minutes at best, and if he doesn't, he's going to look for a way out. So that's kind of how I see it playing. I think Wood is going to survive an early storm here, maybe get taken down. Maybe Pineda uses that size. Maybe Pineda lands a big shot, but the more the fight goes on, the more and more it's going to favor Nathaniel Wood. I think Wood can break this guy in the 2nd or 3rd round. So give me Nathaniel Wood to win this fight. I'll say it's a late 2nd round knockout. Next, we have the featured prelim. This was a fight that was originally on the main card, but we saw that they moved this to the featured prelim, and they brought up the Gregory Rodriguez, Christian Leroy Duncan fight. So yeah, featured prelim here, and what a featured prelim it is. We got Muhammad Mokaev going against Manel Kape. We have Muhammad Mokaev, 23 years old, 5'7" with a 70-inch reach, 11-0. And 5-0 in his last 5 fights. Manel Kape, 30 years old, 5'5" with a 68-inch reach, 19-6 and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. This is one of the closer line fights on this card. Opened up a pick'em minus 110 each way. Mokaev is minus 140. Manel Kape is now a plus 120 underdog. And I like that opener. I think that opener was very accurate in terms of it being a pick'em because I think it's a very close fight. I think it's going to be a fight where it's one of those damage over control type fights, right? Where Mokaev's going to do 0 damage in this fight. Let's face it, he's not going to do anything. He's probably not going to even land a punch. He's probably not going to attempt a punch in this matchup. Why would he? He's going to be looking to get this fight down to the mat. I kid you not, probably within the first 15 seconds. He's not going to want to strike with Manel Kape. And I could see, like, Muhammad Mokaev just selling out for the wrestling like he does in a lot of his fights. But that Alex Perez fight, like, it wasn't the best look in the world. I actually thought he lost that fight, and apparently he was sick or whatever. But still, it was not the best look in the world. And to be fair, Alex Perez does have great takedown defense, but still, he was pretty much just trying to hump Perez's leg for 15 minutes. And I think he's going to try to hump Manel Kape's leg here as well. So, like I said, it comes down to that damage over control. Manel Kape's going to be doing the better work at distance. When the fight is at distance, Manel Kape's going to be landing the much better shots. Manel Kape's going to be landing just in general, whereas Muhammad Mokaev, he's going to be looking to, take down Manel Kape, just rinse and repeat. Like, Mokaev's a guy that can go out there and attempt 20 takedowns if need be. So, if we are in England, I don't like that for Kape in a fight that I do think is going to be close. I think Kape has a lot of the finishing upside, though. Like, if Mokaev's not able to get this fight down to the mat, I think Mokaev's in a lot of trouble. I'm going to go with Kape here. I think it's a close fight. I'll say Kape wins this fight by decision, but, I can see these crooked, corrupt judges maybe favoring the control over the damage. But we've seen, like, in the year of 2024, it's been a damage over control type year for the most part. But again, we're not in the Apex. We're in England, so we'll see what happens. But give me Kape to land the bigger shots here, have the bigger moments, and do more damage here and get the decision win. Moving on, we have the main card opener. Arnold Allen going against Giga Chikadze. We got Arnold Allen, 30 years old, 5'8", with a 70-inch reach, 19-3, and 3-2 in his last 5 fights. Giga Chikadze, 35 years old, 6 foot with a 74-inch reach, 15-3, and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. We have Arnold Allen, decent size favorite, opened up minus 175. He's currently minus 240. Giga opened up plus 150. He's currently plus 205. If this fight was a couple years ago, I'd probably pick Giga, but I have concerns about Giga at this point. So, first of all, Giga Chikadze is 35 years old at this point, which is not, terribly old, but holy crap, did he take a beating in that Calvin Kattar fight. I was very worried about Chikadze after that fight. It was one of the worst beatdowns of 2022. It was one of those fights where Calvin Kattar just literally couldn't get him out of there with punches, that he had to start resorting to elbows. And Giga showed a ton of heart, and I give him props for that, a ton of toughness. But, fights like those are just going to take a ton out of you. And he took about, a year off after that, came back against Alex Caceres, and it was just a very lackluster fight. I mean, he won the fight. I think he won pretty much every single round, but the rounds were, competitive. They were close but clear in favor of Giga. I just expected a lot better out of Giga in that fight. And now he's taking on Arnold Allen, who's going to be 6 years or 5 years younger. And Arnold Allen's good. Like, I like Allen striking. He can be a little bit low volume at times, but he has extremely quick hands. He has a lot of power. His power doesn't necessarily translate to knockouts, but, when he lands, you can hear it. The judges can hear it. And, he's a good fighter. His only losses come against Movsar Evloev and Max Holloway. In that Movsar Evloev fight was super close. I had a bet on Evloev, and I thought it could have went either way. So I think at this point, Arnold Allen is absolutely in his prime, whereas Giga, I think he might kind of be on his way out. So yeah, I got to go Allen here. I think Allen wins a decision. I don't think he's finishing Giga. With that said, though, if Allen does grapple, I think a sub could be in play, but I think this primarily does stay standing. So give me Allen to win this fight. I do think it could be a little bit closer than this line does indicate, but as far as a win goes, I like Arnold Allen to get his hand raised and by decision. Next, we have Christian Leroy Duncan going against Gregory Rodriguez. We got Christian Leroy Duncan, 29 years old, 6'2", with a 79-inch reach, 10-1 and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Gregory Rodriguez, 32 years old, 6'3", with a 75-inch reach, 15-5 and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Christian Leroy Duncan opened up plus 160. He's currently minus 140. And then Gregory Rodriguez opened up minus 185. He's currently plus 120. And yeah, I love this fight. I see why they moved this to the main card. I'm a big fan of Christian Leroy Duncan and his striking, and Gregory Rodriguez is never in a boring fight, and I don't think that's going to change here. Rodriguez has, in theory, some paths here, but we say it every fight with Rodriguez. This guy is a legit BJJ black belt. His grappling is top-notch, but he doesn't use it. I mean, this is a guy that, every time he fights, people bet his sub prop. I've been one of those people before. I remember betting his submission prop against Dennis Tuoluen. And if you're not submitting Dennis Tuoluen, I don't think you're subbing anybody ever. So I don't think Rodriguez is going to sub Duncan. I don't think he's even going to try, just because he doesn't. He's came out and said it himself. It's like he likes to stand and bang, and good for him. I mean, he likes to put on fun fights. But doing that against Christian Leroy Duncan, I'm not so sure. When it comes down to durability, one of these guys is durable, and that's Duncan. I've never seen Duncan even hurt, whereas we've seen Gregory Rodriguez knocked out multiple times, hurt multiple times. So yeah, I mean, I think Rodriguez is going to plod forward, and he's going to get hit a lot. And I think eventually Leroy Duncan's going to touch the chin. Maybe Rodriguez tries to grapple, but even if he does, Christian Leroy Duncan, he's not easy to take down, hold down. I think his grappling's underrated in his own right. So I primarily think we get a fight that takes place standing, and I got to take the more durable guy. The guy I think that is the better striker, has more tools. Like Christian Leroy Duncan has so many tools on the feet. He's so flashy. He's so fun to watch. So yeah, give me Christian Leroy Duncan to win here, and I think he eventually touches the chin of Gregory Rodriguez and puts it on him in the second round. Moving on to the next fight, we got Bobby Green going against Paddy Pimblett. We have a Bobby Green, or King Green, my apologies. He changed his name to King Green legally. I think that's so hilarious, but it's all, I mean, that just shows you the personality of Green there. But yeah, he's 37 years old, 5'10" with a 71-inch reach, 32-15-1, and 3-1-1 no contest in his last 5 fights. Paddy Pimblett, 29 years old, 5'10", with a 73-inch reach, 21-3, and 5-0 in his last 5 fights. Take a look at the odds here. Green opened up -210, currently -110. Pimblett opened up +210, currently -110. This line is going to flip, in my opinion, because it's only like a Monday, and of course there's going to be a lot of Paddy love, especially the more and more the weeks when it goes on. So I think by the time this line closes, Green will be an underdog, and I will be picking the underdog here in Green. Like, I'm breaking down this fight, and it's like, how does Paddy Pimblett win this fight? And the only thing I've heard people say so far is it's like, we're in England. So, which, yeah, we are, but like, is his path to victory a robbery decision? And I kind of think it is, but like, how do you cap that? Like, I think this is a really tough matchup for Paddy Pimblett. His wrestling's not great to begin with, like, and Bobby Green is going to be the better wrestler. Like, Bobby Green has a wrestling background. I don't think Paddy's taking down Green at all. I think these two are going to strike, and when they do, who's the better striker? And it's Bobby Green by a mile, offensively and defensively. Paddy Pimblett's a walking punching bag. Could Paddy land a big shot? Sure, I guess he could, but geez, I don't know. I like Green here in this matchup. I think he has the defensive wrestling, the defensive grappling to keep this upright. And when it's on the feet, like, Green's just so high volume. Green's been going out there and winning minutes and rounds against very high-level strikers in the division. And I don't consider Paddy Pimblett a high-level striker. You look at Paddy Pimblett's level of competition, and a lot of these wins aren't great. Like Luigi Venderbini, not the best win. Jordan Levitt, not the best win. Kazula Vargas, not the best win. Jared Gordon, everybody thinks he lost that fight, and then just a completely done Tony Ferguson in which he couldn't even finish him. So if he beats King Green, it's going to be his best win by a mile. I'm just not so sure. I mean, 41% striking defense for Paddy, 25% takedown accuracy. Like, I really struggle to see why all this money's coming in on Paddy, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. If Green gets robbed, it is what it is. But I got to go Green here. I'm going to take him to win this fight by decision, but we will see if the crooked, corrupt England judges agree with that. Moving on, we have Tom Aspinall going against Curtis Blades. We got Aspinall, 31 years old, 6'5", with a 78-inch reach, 14-3, and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Curtis Blades, 33 years old, 6'4", with an 80-inch reach, 18-4, and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Tom Aspinall opened up -210. He's currently -350. Curtis Blades opened up +180. He's currently +285. And one thing I noticed off the bat is these odds are kind of wild, man. When you consider that these two fought not too long ago, Aspinall closed as a minus 130, minus 135 favorite. Blades closed as a plus 115, plus 120 underdog. Like, what has really changed since then? And to be honest, not a ton. Blades got knocked out again, which, it's happened before, and Aspinall's on a two-fight winning streak against Tybura and Sergey Pavlovich. But other than that, not much has changed stylistically with the matchup. But with all that said, though, the line's wide, and I see a lot of people taking the big dog shot on Blades, and I get it. There's some reasons to like him, but the problem I have with Blades is I don't trust him. I don't trust the fight IQ at all. I don't trust the willingness to wrestle, man. I mean, Blades has some of the best wrestling in the division, but he's fallen in love with the striking. This guy has in his last 6 fights, 3 takedowns. That's a problem. He didn't get a takedown against Derek Lewis, which it's inexcusable. He won against Bukauskas, but no takedowns. I thought he would mix in some takedowns, but no, he didn't. And against Sergey Pavlovich, like the people that bet on Blades, luckily I was not one of those people. They were like yelling at the TV, "Hey Blades, let's try to take this guy down." No, he didn't really try. One half-assed takedown, but that's it for Curtis Blades in that Pavlovich fight. So if he's not gonna take down Aspinall, he's getting knocked out. I mean, Blades' striking is very good. Don't get me wrong. It's just Aspinall has power in his hands, like the death touch type power. Aspinall is much quicker. I mean, the hand speed on Aspinall is insane. And when he touches guys, they go down. It doesn't even look like he's hitting them that hard. They go down. And Curtis Blades, I don't think, has the best chin at all. So Curtis has a way to win this fight, in my opinion. That would be to wrestle, to get this fight down to the ground, to extend this fight, to get on top, to stay safe, get it to the second round, the third round. If he does that, I think he could win. It's just, will he wrestle? And I'm leaning towards no. I'm leaning towards he probably won't. He's probably going to strike, and if that happens, he is getting knocked out. So I think the most likely scenario, despite the odds, is an Aspinall KO1. So I'm going to pick an Aspinall KO1 here. Next, we have the main event, Leon Edwards going against Belal Muhammad. If you guys have not already, like the video, subscribe, and comment down those significant strikes between these two here. We have Edwards, Belal Muhammad. They're running it back after a fight that took place in 2021 in the Apex. And yeah, looking forward to this fight. I'm looking forward to it. We got Edwards, 32 years old, 6'2", with a 74-inch reach, 22-3, 4-0-1 no contest in his last 5 fights. Belal Muhammad, 36 years old, 5'11", with a 72-inch reach, 23-3, and 5-0 in his last 5 fights. Leon Edwards, really big favorite. Opened up minus 225. He's currently minus 235. Belal Muhammad opened up plus 190. He's currently plus 200. Oh, gosh. So this is one of those fights where it's like, I think this line's kind of silly. I think it's a silly line because when you think about Leon Edwards, it's like, when is he ever looking like minus 230, minus 250, and not a lot. Like that last fight against Colby Covington, Colby didn't even show up. It was a weird performance, and Colby even like won a round or 2 off of him. Like if Colby showed up, I think he would have easily beat Edwards, but it was a weird performance from Colby. We've never seen Colby fight like that. In the third Kamaru Usman fight, I thought it was extremely close, could win either way. In the second Kamaru Usman fight, where he got that head kick, like Usman was on his way to winning the fight. And even against Nate Diaz, like this guy gets hurt and wobbled in the 5th round against Nate Diaz. Like he's competitive in a lot of these fights. But Leon Edwards is a very good fighter. Sometimes I forget how good of a fighter this guy is, because he's not the most exciting fighter in the world. He's not my cup of tea per se, but a lot of guys like him. He's a fan favorite. I don't get it personally, but you can't deny that he's a very, very good fighter. He's an incredible striker, and he's one of those guys who just doesn't throw a ton. He's landing less than 3 strikes per minute, but he's also really good at not getting hit. He's one of those guys that'll kind of hypnotize their opponents. So you're looking at this fight on paper, like looking at the stats, right? Leon Edwards lands only 2.75. Belal's landing almost double that. And then the more I thought about it, the more I'm like, Edwards is one of those guys that he's not going to let you get off, that much volume. So although Belal has landed more in the past, that's not to say Belal's going to go out there and outland Leon Edwards. It's just not going to happen, because Leon Edwards is the much better striker in this matchup. And then it comes down to, is Belal going to get takedowns here? And I'm not sure. Edwards has very good takedown defense. His takedown defense is much, much improved. So, initially I kind of leaned Belal Muhammad, especially at these odds, but it's one of those fights where I think it's going to be another close fight. And I just really struggle to see like Belal getting his hand raised in a close fight in England. Like, I don't know. I think the best case scenario for Muhammad is a close fight, right? Like, he's not going to finish anybody outside of Sean Brady. His best case scenario is a close competitive fight. And is he getting that decision? Probably not. So I think all the values on Muhammad, but it's one of those fights where I think Muhammad at the end of the day looks value, but does he get his hand raised? I'm not so sure. So I've been kind of going back and forth with this main event. I do want to get the pick right. So I'm not going to pick based off of value. I'm going to pick off of who do I think at the end of the day gets their hand raised. And for me, it's going to be Leon Edwards by decision. I think Muhammad's going to really struggle here early on. I think he's going to really struggle to get takedowns early on. So I expect Leon Edwards to have success early on. And the more the fight goes on, the more in theory it will favor Belal Muhammad. But I don't think Edwards is going to completely drop off as the fight goes on. So close fight. I think it's going to be one of those fights where it's competitive, but Edwards probably edges it out. Even if he loses, the crooked, corrupt judges will probably give it to him. So give me Edwards to win this fight, and Edwards to win this fight by decision. There you guys have it. Let me know down in the comments what you guys are liking. A lot of chalk this week, which has been the kind of the usual for these pay-per-views this year. It's chalk, money lines, and overs. A lot of favorites, a lot of overs, and I think that trend continues here on this card. So that's about it, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Like on your way out, subscribe as well. Be on the lookout for more content throughout the week, and best of luck for UFC 304, and we'll talk to you guys later. See you.